Hi, this is Tom Doctoroff. Welcome back to iTV-Asia. I'm leading the advertising and marketing section, and today I have the distinct pleasure of introducing Hoong, the head of RMG Connect in Beijing, which is basically a digital CRM operation, and the exciting frontier of measurability and accountability of one-on-one communication. So I'd like to just start by saying hi, Jit.
Hi, Tom.
Now you can look at me. But can you just give me a little bit of background on who you are, where you come from?
Well, basically, I am a Malaysian, very far away, and been in this business for about 15 years.
When you say this business, what business is that you're speaking of?
I would say advertising or brand-related business, and of course, when I started, digital wasn't really in its infancy at the moment. It was '94, so at that point in time, it was just internet. So it was a natural progression for me, being originally a technology person. So I went into really be interested in the internet front, and then from there I progressed into digital, and of course direct marketing and CRM and so on and so forth.
So you've mentioned a lot of terms in here: direct marketing, CRM, digital, internet. Can you please define for me and our audience exactly what CRM is? What does it stand for? Those letters are used all the time, and what's the difference between it and, say, direct marketing?
Frankly, Tom, CRM is actually a very abused word. The IT companies uses CRM to sell their enterprise solutions. The advertising agencies uses CRM to sell communications planning. And up to this point, there are a lot of variations of definition what CRM actually is.
Well, let's start with what the letters stand for, CRM.
Originally, it's actually customer relationship management. As it progressed, it now becomes customer relationship marketing. But for us at RMG, perhaps a better way to explain it would be relationship marketing. In definition, CRM to us is about building a profitable relationship with our clients' customers over time.
Okay, so let me repeat that. You are maximizing the value of individual customers over time. So this requires what?
Well, let me correct that. We maximize the high value of existing customers within our client's portfolio, because for the fact is that CRM cannot be targeting everyone. It's only going to be targeted at high value customers. But because of the digital landscape that has changed right now, it's actually a lot cheaper nowadays to be targeting to a wider scope of audience.
Let's get back to that just in a second, because I think that is a very interesting fundamental change, it seems to me, facilitated by digital. But I first want to stick with the basics here. How you defined CRM just now sounds to me like direct marketing. So what's the difference, if any, between direct marketing and customer relationship marketing?
CRM is actually an evolution of direct marketing. It uses the same technique, it uses the same tactic about how we reach out to a person one-on-one. But the fact is that CRM is a more holistic approach, whereas direct marketing would be a one-off way. So if a client requires a campaign, we do a direct marketing campaign. It's a one-time campaign for 1 month, whereas a CRM is a long-term investment by the client over time or period of 3 years, 5 years, or even up to 10 years.
Okay, so direct marketing, I hear you say, but I don't want to be putting words in your mouth, is a little bit more tactical, okay, and it's ultimately a question of manipulation of, say, control and test pods to see which one yields the best response. And you're basically saying that CRM is a more strategic approach to the long-term management of customer relationships. Is that fair?
That's fair. Like what you say, in terms of like the test and control will probably be one of the tactics that we use in direct marketing.
Okay, so give me an example of a CRM campaign, right, that it can be done by RMG, it can be done by any company that you know of. We're agnostic here. What is a good example that demonstrates the power of CRM? You know, something that you think has moved a market.
Well, I guess if you look at China, there are a few which are fairly good campaigns that went on. The Air France, for example.
Please explain what happened in that Air France campaign.
Air France actually created an incentive program for all their sales agents because they have about 2,000 over sales agents across China. They want to motivate their sales agent to actually continue to sell Air France packages flying through Air France. So they actually created a very complex incentive program. The more you sell, the more you get in terms of all the promotions or all the incentives. So actually, at the end result, through that program, they managed to build morale within all the sales agents that they have, and also increase sales, which is the ultimate goal for any CRM programs. So that is a clear example of a good CRM program at play. But after saying so, CRM program comes in very different scenarios as well. There are some which are basically a loyalty program, like China Mobile has a VIP card for people who spend a lot in terms of using their calls. You'll probably be able to see them having the VIP lounge at the airports. Those are all the reward schemes that they have for you if you spend a lot of money with China Mobile. So those are the examples of various forms of CRM program. It could be complex, it could be very simple as well.
I'm still, by the way, questioning in my mind whether this is just another word for direct marketing, because loyalty programs used to fit under the rubric of direct marketing. So I think, just to make sure our terms are clear, CRM, there are two elements to it that make it true CRM. One is a strategic orientation to long-term relationships, and then the second would be that there's an underlying data. I don't want to use the word mining. I understand that's an overused word, but this is a data-driven operation. Is that a fair thing to say?
Definitely. In CRM programs, the first thing that we do is actually to look at all the data that we have. Perhaps I'm jumping a little bit up front, but how a CRM works is about identifying a person that has been repeatedly coming to you and buying high-value items from you. So you identify this person through the data, and once they have been identified, you do an in-depth research on this type of category and find more of these people, either through your mass advertising or through other direct marketing campaigns, so that you can actually build a larger portfolio of customers who are willing to spend more money with you more frequently.
Okay. Now, I've heard that there's online CRM and then there's offline CRM. Is that difference meaningful, or is it arbitrary?
To us, it's actually quite similar, because whether it's online or offline, it's a matter of...
Offline means through the mail, usually?
Through the mail, or even at store, at retail level, customer service centers, telecall centers. But to us, it's pretty much similar. It's about the channel of delivery. So we should be actually pretty much in a CRM program agnostic towards the channels. But more importantly is understanding the media consumption of a customer. That itself will actually drive whether we're going to use offline or online channels.
Well, full disclosure, RMG Connect is affiliated in a brotherly way with JWT. And my understanding is that your Beijing office is primarily digital. Why would that be? Why? And also our Hong Kong RMG is both digital and offline. So what is it about China that makes digital a particularly ripe area for harvesting the potential of CRM?
There are a few explanations to that. The first, of course, China being a very large market itself, digital is actually one of the most effective way to reach out to customers.
Why?
Because of the landscape of China. To send a post or 1 million posts to I mean, all around China would be a lot more expensive than to actually send an email to 1 million person.
But that begs the question, if you're going to be sending a post, and I don't want to turn this into a whole direct marketing discussion about, say, the availability of lists and the inconsistency of addresses and the mechanical difficulties of doing good CRM that is offline in China. I think that maybe we can get back to that. But getting back to the question of high potential targets and customers, I mean, is digital discriminating? Is it possible to use the digital media to identify and then forge a relationship with your high-value customers? Because aren't most of the people that are on digital young and without a lot of money?
Actually, true and not true. There's a growth of high-value customers who are actually using digital touchpoint in many different ways.
Make this concrete for me.
For example, perhaps if you look at a lot more people are actually using email, large corporations, CEOs, CTOs, or even marketing directors of the world in China itself are already using technology in some form. So EDM is a very natural way, or email direct marketing is a very natural way of actually reaching out to them. Even though I understand that the fact is that if you receive a physical mailer, you'll be more predisposed to actually open it up and enjoy the content of it than EDM nowadays. But it's more important about how we actually analyze the data. If we understand the data enough, we should be able to create something that is relevant to you, for example, to want to open that email to see what we have to offer as a brand.
Could you give me an example of, sorry for putting you on the spot here, but a way that you've been able to use the to line as a motivating trigger to open up the response and start a relationship?
The to line and the subject line are probably one of the most important way. Normally, before we actually run any programs or direct marketing programs, we will do a test on every single subject matters that makes sense. Of course, there are some that actually pull out a lot more higher responses, like free or like buy one, get one. So it's about incentives driven as well. If you don't have the right incentive, which we call in direct marketing terms the offer, if you don't have the right offer in there, irregardless of how valuable your product is, it might not actually get through in the context of 1,000 over emails or 100 over emails that a person is receiving on a daily basis. But after saying so, this is where traditional advertising comes into play to build the relevancy of why I need that particular brand or product. And how direct marketing comes in is to actually go on to the last mile. Hey, you have seen that particular brand, that particular product, you like it, but your preference might not be there, your consideration might not be there. Now, let me just give you a little nudge.
So you don't see then direct marketing and traditional advertising or mass market advertising as in conflict? I thought all of you thought that we were the old dinosaurs.
Not at all.
Really?
In fact, I look at it as a very integrated way of how we can actually envelop a customer. Because traditional advertising plays a very important role to giving a user or even a customer or a prospect the awareness of that particular brand and a product. And once you build up the awareness, that's where direct marketing comes in to shift a preference and make that person consider the brand and product.
Let me see if I understand what you're saying. You're basically saying that mass market advertising is more passively consumed, right? But it can help shape preference and predisposition. And then you guys come in to translate that passive preference into an active preference. So that means it's not just a question of email then, right? I mean, so it's also websites. So you could be using true or false mass media advertising or broadcast media as a call to action to visit, say, a website, and then that could be the beginning of a CRM relationship.
Yes.
So is a big challenge then, how do you work with the broadcast advertising agency and have that nexus between broadcast and more one-on-one come together seamlessly?
Actually, the best way to approach it like we always do, is to have one internal brief in terms of having the same thinking of what we want to achieve and driving the traditional advertising to understand how from them they will translate or pass the torch to us to drive, like what you say, into active selection or active preference. And then from there it will go into retail, where of course the activation team will come in to make sure that they will actually convert during the last mile.
You just use a very vivid metaphor of passing the torch. What torch? Is there any creative unification that can happen between above the line and CRM?
In terms of creative, I would see that from the idea standpoint, it will have to be consistent, whether it's traditional advertising, whether it's direct marketing or CRM. But because CRM is a much, much more longer term, so whereas you could be having a lot of campaigns that runs, so the CRM creative could be a lot more passive versus the traditional advertising could be more campaign basis or direct marketing.
You mean tactical or passive? Tactical. What are you saying that CRM creative could be more passive?
Well, it wouldn't be much more tactical. It wouldn't be like, for example, today we are talking about story of a flower. So it wouldn't be that tactical because of how CRM is a long-term investment from the client. So along the way, this CRM program has to actually translate the brand identity effectively into the whole construct of the program and not look at it from a tactical perspective.
Okay. So every campaign that you do in CRM has to be killing two birds with one stone, or as the Chinese say, 一举两得. On one hand, it has to be reinforcing an overall brand proposition and a brand vision, a relationship between product and consumer. But on the other hand, it needs to have very specific behavioral objectives in mind, which hopefully, of course, lead to purchase.
Yes.
Do you, let's get back a little bit more to the feasibility of doing CRM in China, lists. Okay. Is it possible to buy with digital, right, good lists so you know who you're targeting, or do most of the communications and most of the prospecting have to be self-generated?
Lists at the moment in China are still very difficult to source. There are a few list companies out there that provides us reliable lists, but it all depends on what kind of target audience we're looking for. Certain type of target audience will probably be requiring field marketing or different sort of events to actually do the prospecting part.
But give me an example, not an example, of the types of market segments for which there are lists available. And then one question that I also have is, why has it taken so long for lists to be generated? What's happening here in China that makes lists so difficult? Because I've been here for 10 years and people have been complaining about lists for a long time.
Well, there are a few reasons behind it. Number one is all the list owners probably source their list. Sorry. All the list owners probably source their list similarly. And thus, sometimes these prospects or customers has not really say yes towards being marketed to. So that is one way to look at it, why the lists sometimes do not yield the right results, because these people are not interested to be marketed to. Second is perhaps data collection is still a very new thing a few years back. And it requires a maturity time. And
do you think that China's making progress in this respect?
Oh, definitely.
So if you compare China now, I know you haven't been on the mainland for a long time, but do you see, in terms of being able to have the conventional direct marketing or CRM arsenal, is China developing quickly or clunkily?
It's actually developing very rapidly in terms of lists, because data are starting to go through a lot of cleaning process. And a lot of clients that I have met are beginning to actually understand the power of data and actually doing a lot of cleaning to make sure that these data are valuable to them for future campaigns or marketing purposes. So it's actually both levels that you look at it. Once the client starts understanding and wants to actually use the data more effectively, you see that there will be opportunities for all this data to come in the right way, versus probably a few years back where data collection might not be that important at that moment in time. Because if you understand the history, is right up to today, mass marketing or mass advertising is still a very important element in China because of the rapid scale and size of China itself. That's why data will have taken a secondary over mass advertising.
I see. Name 3 companies, your clients or not. By the way, who are your clients? Quickly get that out of the way.
Our clients are like Nokia, HP, and we also work with Microsoft.
So big names, right? But in fact, let's take your clients out of consideration, since you don't want to get into too much self-promotion here. Name 3 companies that you admire what they're doing in China in terms of their CRM. And when I say CRM, I'm defining it in the same way that you've talked about it, as opposed to just cool digital.
Well, as I say, Air France.
Air France.
Which is one of them. And some of the banks that I've seen them doing credit card marketing is quite effective.
Are those local banks or
local banks?
I've heard China Merchants Bank is doing a lot of interesting stuff as well.
Yes, and they have been doing a lot of points and redeem rewards program. They have been consistently sending promotional offers, either via or different mediums as well.
What I find amazing about China Merchants Bank is that in just 2 years, I'm going off topic now, but they have transformed their image from a very stodgy local style bank to something that is really in touch with this new generation. And it really is a very simple proposition. One, having relevant product offer, but also the way that they're connecting with their people also is reinforcing, their consumer centricism. But in any case, banks, Air France, is there another one? Or did you already say 3?
Well, I guess that's China Mobile.
China Mobile, yeah. Right? So these are all pretty much high involvement products, correct? So it's not your Cokes or your Pepsis. Getting into, because we so far been talking about internet. What about mobile? Is mobile a useful tool in CRM?
Well, let's get mobile first. Mobile is a very important channel. In China itself, there's about 450 million mobile subscribers. In itself, it's already very, very important. And secondly, if you look at mobile, how it has slowly grown from what it is before to today, you start to realize that mobile is starting to accept rich media. They can do internet via mobile, and they can literally watch videos and also They can.
I know some of them can, but how many of them can? I mean, has the technology behind mobile really developed to such a point that it can be used as a delivery of good creative that carry powerful messages in mass?
Perhaps by next year, when 3G is in full force, you will see mobile being maximized in terms of delivering rich media. But more importantly, if we get back to whether mobile is good for CRM, I would say that yes, because mobile number one is unique by itself, and number 2 is it's constantly by your side. So there's a sense of relevancy if you be providing timely and correct information or promotions to a person at that time that they need most. So you really will be connecting as a brand. You'll be really connecting with the customers.
We have only just a couple minutes left, but what is something to watch out for, mistakes to avoid as we embark in this new mobile landscape in terms of turning people off?
Well, spamming, definitely.
Hey, no spam.
No spam. And that goes back to the list. If the list that you have is not clean, chances are whatever programs that you'll be going out, you'll be spamming someone. Secondly,
so you want to have people opt in or not?
Opt-in, definitely. And second, instead of pull, you're probably looking into push. So, for example, mobile...
Instead of pull, you're looking into push. Okay, what does that mean?
For example, you can look into new ways of actually reaching out to a customer. Bluecasting, which is using Bluetooth technology. And that way is about how or whether I, as a consumer, really want the information. If I want the information, I will request for it. So it's all on demand type of information rather than I being sent to me. The other one is, of course...
we don't have time to get into it, but you're basically, I think I heard you saying this is something to follow up on, that new technology like Bluetoothing, RFID, this is helpful for being able to have the consumer be in charge of what he wants to access it. So that's what you mean by pull.
Yep.
Okay.
In fact, nowadays, if you look at user-generated content or Web 2.0, users wants to be in control. They want to be the center of attraction. They don't want the brand to be the center. They want to make decisions. They want to be able to interact. They want to be able to have their opinions placed up there. And it really resonates with a lot of things that we are doing right now to make sure that users of today really have that power and really can be in control of whether it's the medium, the channel, or the content itself.
So what you're really talking about is that CRM enables us to harness a new era of consumer empowerment. And you sound like a proud warrior to be on the center of that battlefield. Is that a fair thing to say?
Yes.
You do seem like a passionate guy, and RMG Connect is certainly lucky to have you, Chit. Is there anything else you want to say to our ITV audience before we sign off? Something that we've neglected to talk about?
Well, a couple of things, actually.
Okay.
Number one
Let's bullet point them, shall we?
Okay. Digital. We talked a little bit about digital, but we didn't really went into it. The digital landscape has changed tremendously.